All right, so we're happening right now. Are we on? This is happening? This is for real. Okay. I'm here to talk about power chords. I'm looking at both of these cameras. I'm letting them both know. I'm looking at this camera. This is about power chords, okay? And I really love power chords because power chords are kind of the what make rock and roll happen. So, what is the difference between a power chord and a normal chord, one might ask? Well, a normal chord, we'll say a major chord in this instance, sounds like this. Isn't that pleasant? That is nice. Now, a major chord contains 3 different notes. A first, a third, and a fifth. Okay, this is all sort of music-y jargon, but if you're familiar with do, re, mi, we give those notes numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, the octave. Octave, octopus. Anyways, so we give them all numbers, and most major chords or minor chords are made up of a first, a third, and a fifth. So a power chord is just a first and a fifth. And that is what allows it to sound so, for lack of a better term, powerful. Very powerful are these chords. So for instance, here, listen to the difference versus this. It's very slightly different, but it allows the chord to ring in a way that a warmed up tube amp kind of begins to distort. And so if I really hit this chord, you'll hear what I'm talking about. So it sounds very large. Now, for those of you out there are being like, hey, you're playing more than just 2 strings. Well, that is correct. But I'm only playing the same 2 notes over and over again. And so in this video, I'm going to show you my 6 favorite power chord voicings. Okay, power chord voicing are 2 words that don't usually go together. Anyways, these are my favorite ways to play different power chords. So, my absolute favorite is G5, and it is played like this. Now, I'll play it, and then you'll hear. It's awesome. It's huge. So, what's going on here is that now, if I were to play a normal G chord, I would incorporate this note here, this B note, which is the third, G, A, B. So that would be the third. But if I want to play a power chord of the G, I'm going to eliminate that note. And the way that I'm doing that is by obviously getting rid of this finger. And then what I'm doing is I'm muting the A string. The string that I was playing the B on before. I'm muting it with the side, the kind of the fleshy piece of my finger. And so that dulls the note. Everything else I'm playing just as if it was a normal G. So it sounds awesome. So that's a G5. That's my favorite way to play G. Now, the chord I was playing previous was an E5. And E5 uses a similar idea, but in a different way. So for instance, here's an E major. This is how I would play an E5, which is very in the style of Pete Townsend from The Who. Now, you may be saying, well, that looks like an E minor. He's not playing an E5, but what I'm doing is I'm using the edge of my middle finger to mute the G string. G is the third of E, E, F, G. So I'm eliminating that note, and then we get this sound, which is huge. It's amazing. So the 2 of the biggest chords that you can play on the guitar are like a G5 to an E5. That's huge. Oh yes. So those are the 2 largest chords that you can play. Now the other ones are a little bit more simple, but very important to the vocabulary of rock. The next one I'm going to show you is an A5. So that's the sound of countless AC/DC songs. It's just that. Now, again, this one may seem simple, but what I'm doing is actually rather complex. If you look at my hand, hopefully this camera can see my hand, I am muting the low E string with the side of my thumb, and I'm also muting the B string with my middle finger, and I'm muting the high E string with the side of my hand, which allows me to do powerful rock maneuvers like this. See the reckless abandon? I'm not even looking, I don't even care. So that's what's making the power chord sound so good. It's just this direct sound. There's only very few notes involved. So anyways, that's my other favorite one. Now, there's different ways of organizing these two notes, right? I said it was just the first and fifth. Another way to do it is to put the fifth in the bass rather than having the root note. So for instance, when I say root note, if I were to play a D power chord, usually you would find the note D, in this case the open D string, in the bass. But sometimes what happens is that we'll put the fifth in the bass, which gives it a very different sound. So in the case of D, D, E, F, G, A, I'm going to put A, the fifth of D, in the bass, which gives this sound, which is also good. This is a good sound. I like this sound. You might not, I don't know. But imagine you've got a bass player, like the looming figure behind this camera, willing to play an A underneath you. Then you have this giant kind of power chord that is you and the bass player combined, which just sounds huge. So if you have a bass player with you, I encourage you to try this. It'll sound very big. So what I'm doing here is I'm playing a D with just these two fingers. I'm muting the high E string, and with my thumb I'm muting the low E string, and then I'm just, with reckless abandon, just cranking it. Now, another one that most people are familiar with, when you think of a power chord, usually people think of this shape, I think. I think people usually think of this shape. But let's take that idea of the fifth in the bass. Again, how would you do it with this kind of a chord? Well, in the key of B, B, C, D, E, F. And in the key of B, in the key of B, F is sharp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an F sharp in the bass. And look, all I'm doing is I'm barring across here. And so I'm playing both of these notes at the same time. And then I'm using my pinky and my ring finger to play the 4th fret on the D and G strings. So again, I'm barring the low E string and the A string on the 2nd fret, and I'm using my ring finger on the 4th fret of the D string and my pinky finger on the 4th fret of the G string. Complicated. But it sounds like this. It's got a growl to it. I like this. It sounds fantastic. I love it. So those 5 chords, those are my favorite power chords. I love playing those. And I was just really making this video to kind of show you these there's different ways to play power chords. A power chord isn't just doing this over and over again. There's many different ways to voice these things, and that was kind of my intention with this video, was to show you that there's much more to the world of the power chord than simply a part of a bar chord. Basically, there's more going on to it. Now the other thing is this: is that if I did this, for instance. That doesn't sound very powerful, does it? The tone of your amp is very important to the nature of a power chord. And so what I've done is I've put gain or overdrive on the amplifier, okay? This is something that I feel you have to practice doing. If you want to play rock music that sounds anything like AC/DC or Guns N' Roses, anything like that, you have to practice with gain on. So do not shy away from turning on the gain. And we're playing very quietly right now. The amp that I'm using is something called a master volume amp, meaning that I have turned the gain up, but the master volume down. Which lets me practice playing with gain on at a bedroom level. This is crucial. You really should play with gain on, in my belief. This is just my opinion. So anyways, don't be ashamed by the gain. Turn the gain on. Push the little button on your amp that says gain, and then just like Anyways, so this is Nick signing off. We've been discussing power chords. I had a good time. I hope that you did too. Goodbye.